Welcome to Culture Vulture. It is your ultimate alternative weekly entertainment guide. We bring you the best of film, music, and the arts. Our perspective is fresh. Mainstream media often overshadows unique voices and creative expressions. Culture Vulture aims to shine a light on hidden cultural gems that deserve your attention. Each week, we curate a selection of films, music, and events designed to inspire and engage. We celebrate the diverse tapestry of artistic endeavors that shape our world. Highlights this week include All About Eve, 1950, a razor-sharp exploration of ambition and betrayal in the world of theater. A young actress manipulates her way to the top. She does this at the expense of her mentor. Do the Right Thing, 1989, a powerful and provocative portrayal of racial tensions in a Brooklyn neighborhood. The story unfolds on a sweltering summer day. This leads to a confrontation that forever changes the community. And Victorian Scandals, a series that uncovers the hidden scandals of the Victorian era. It exposes the hypocrisy and double lives of the elite. These individuals bent societal rules for their own gain while maintaining a facade of respectability. The writing and selection for Culture Vulture is by Pat Harrington. The music is by Tim Bragg. Together, we invite you to dive into the vibrant world of culture from a different perspective. Discover new favorites and experience the magic that awaits beyond the mainstream.
Saturday the 19th of October, 2024. In which we serve 1942, BBC 2 9:40 AM. This classic British war film is co-directed by Noel Coward and David Lean. It centres on a naval ship's crew during World War II. At its core, the film examines the bonds of loyalty and duty that form in extreme circumstances. Its depiction of community, especially among the working-class sailors, is perhaps one of its most striking features. The camaraderie among the men reflects not only wartime necessity but a broader hope for collective strength and unity. The film paints a vision of British society as hierarchical but somehow united by a common cause. However, beneath the surface of this ideal, there are stark divisions in class. The officer class is portrayed as noble, educated, and paternal, while the lower ranks are hard-working but unquestioningly deferential. There's a suggestion here that this is how society should function. Of course, our vision is different. Despite, or because of, the film's wartime context, it presents an idealized version of national identity and the empire. It avoids the realities of colonial exploitation. The film also overlooks the struggles of other nations under British rule. It's a celebration of Britain's war effort, which sidesteps the complexities of imperial power. The film's view of leadership is patriarchal. Older male figures guide and nurture the younger generation. This dynamic subtly reinforces traditional gender roles. There's also a noticeable absence of women in meaningful roles. While the sailors' wives are shown briefly, their lives are secondary to the men's heroic journey. They are relegated to the sidelines, with their struggles seemingly insignificant compared to those of their husbands. The film's emotional depth is muted for the sake of heroic stoicism. This approach can feel cold by today's more nuanced standards of human experience. Overall, In Which We Serve promotes a vision of unity. However, it achieves this by ignoring the social fractures that have historically divided people. The film may inspire a nostalgic pride in a bygone era of British resilience. However, it leaves critical questions unasked. These questions are especially about the systems that maintain inequality, even in times of shared hardship. All About Eve, 1950, BBC 2 3:10 PM. All About Eve offers a biting look at the world of theatre. It showcases its cutthroat ambition and manipulation. The film also highlights the fragile egos of its players. The story focuses on Margot Channing, an aging star. Eve Harrington is a young, ambitious woman who ingratiates herself into Margot's life. She does this with less than noble intentions. At its heart, the film examines how industries obsessed with youth and beauty treat women as disposable. This is especially true as they age. Margot's struggle with aging is painfully relatable. She finds herself pushed aside by younger talent, not because she's lost her skill. Instead, it is because society values women less as they grow older. It's a poignant commentary. Women's worth is often tied to their appearance. They are quickly replaced in a system that favors fresh faces over experience and wisdom. The theatre becomes a microcosm for broader cultural patterns where women must constantly fight for relevance. Eve, on the other hand, is a representation of unbridled ambition. Her rise to stardom is fueled by deceit. This suggests that the pursuit of success, especially for women, requires a certain amount of compromise. It involves betrayal and even ruthlessness. Her actions may seem extreme, but they reflect a system that rewards manipulation over integrity. The film's portrayal of female ambition is complex. It shows both the destructive power of such single-mindedness and the ways in which society pushes women into these roles. Interestingly, the men in the film, though significant to the plot, are largely passive figures. They are either complicit in or blind to the manipulation happening around them. Their roles are to admire or critique the women from the sidelines. This reinforces the idea that women are performing for a male gaze. Their struggles are fundamentally with each other. The men are arbiters of success, but not truly engaged in the deep emotional and personal conflicts at play. All About Eve leaves us questioning the nature of success. It examines the cost of ambition. It also explores the cruel ways in which society marginalizes women once they are deemed past their prime. It's a sharp critique of a world. In this world, personal relationships are often sacrificed on the altar of career advancement. Those at the top are always at risk of being dethroned by the next ingenue. Churchill, Britain's Secret Apartheid, c. for 8:20 p.m. This documentary re-examines a towering figure of British history. It peels back layers of legend to reveal uncomfortable truths about leadership. The documentary also exposes the costs borne by others in pursuit of empire. Through a fresh lens, the viewer is invited to explore the patriotic stories taught in schools. These stories clash with the realities faced by colonized populations. The program explores the complex legacy of a man revered for his wartime leadership. His policies and attitudes towards non-European subjects provoke deep reflection. The production highlights moments. These are times when decisions made in the halls of Westminster spread to distant parts of the globe. They created divides that resonate today. This documentary does not celebrate military triumphs. Instead, it presents a sobering narrative. It questions whose victories were truly celebrated and examines the cost. It's a reminder that leadership, even in times of crisis, is often marred by prejudice. History remembers victors more kindly than the vanquished. This examination challenges the viewer to consider how political power is exercised. It also examines how it is maintained, often to the detriment of marginalized communities. It prompts us to ask, can a leader be both a savior and an oppressor? The program looks critically at Churchill's lesser-known policies. This encourages a more nuanced view of his impact. His influence extends not just on Britain, but on the world stage. Through poignant interviews and archival footage, the audience is led to question the narratives that have long been accepted. We live in an age where historical heroes are being re-evaluated. This documentary highlights the importance of not allowing mythology to obscure injustice. For viewers expecting another wartime biopic, Churchill, Britain's Secret Apartheid offers instead a thought-provoking exploration of power and complicity. It also examines the legacy of historical figures whose actions still reverberate in the present. Do the Right Thing, 1989, BBC 2, 12:35 a.m. Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing is a searing exploration of tensions in a diverse urban neighborhood. These tensions unfold during one sweltering day in Brooklyn. The film portrays a tapestry of characters, each embodying different experiences, perspectives, and frustrations. At its center is Mookie. He is a pizza delivery man. Mookie is caught between his job at an Italian-American pizzeria. He also belongs to the black community. The film culminates in an explosive conflict that raises deep questions about justice, power, and the limits of peaceful coexistence. The film setting feels almost like a character in itself. The oppressive heat symbolizes the rising tensions among the residents. Everyone in the neighborhood is living side by side, but the barriers between them are stark. The pizzeria, run by Sal and his sons, becomes the focal point of these divides. The walls of Sal's pizzeria are adorned with pictures of Italian-American icons. They serve as a visual reminder of exclusion. The music from Radio Raheem's boombox symbolizes a cultural assertion. It demands to be heard. Lee doesn't shy away from portraying how everyday interactions can be loaded with deeper historical weight. The film's escalating tensions reveal that unresolved issues simmer beneath the surface. These issues erupt when pushed to the breaking point. It's a powerful statement about the consequences of ignoring or denying people their humanity. Each character reflects the diverse ways people deal with systemic inequalities. They cope through violence, apathy, or blind patriotism, or perpetuate them the same ways. Importantly, the film resists offering easy answers. The neighborhood descends into chaos. The chaos follows the tragic death of Radio Raheem and the destruction of the pizzeria. We are left to reflect on the nature of anger and protest. Mookie's decision to throw the trash can through Sal's window is not a clear moral statement. It is an act born of frustration and a deep sense of betrayal. It forces the audience to consider what actions are justified when people feel voiceless and powerless in their own communities. Do the right thing is a fearless confrontation of uncomfortable truths. It challenges us to think about how communities can coexist when the wounds of the past stay unhealed. It is as relevant today as it was in 1989. It offers a raw, unflinching look at the complexities of race, identity, and power. All About Eve, 1950, BBC 2 3:10 p.m. All About Eve offers a biting look at the world of theatre. It showcases its cutthroat ambition and manipulation. The film also highlights the fragile egos of its players. The story focuses on Margot Channing, an aging star. Eve Harrington is a young, ambitious woman who ingratiates herself into Margot's life. She does this with less than noble intentions. At its heart, the film examines how industries obsessed with youth and beauty treat women as disposable. This is especially true as they age. Margot's struggle with aging is painfully relatable. She finds herself pushed aside by younger talent, not because she's lost her skill. Instead, it is because society values women less as they grow older. It's a poignant commentary. Women's worth is often tied to their appearance. They are quickly replaced in a system that favors fresh faces over experience and wisdom. The theatre becomes a microcosm for broader cultural patterns where women must constantly fight for relevance. Eve, on the other hand, is a representation of unbridled ambition. Her rise to stardom is fueled by deceit. This suggests that the pursuit of success, especially for women, requires a certain amount of compromise. It involves betrayal and even ruthlessness. Her actions may seem extreme, but they reflect a system that rewards manipulation over integrity. The film's portrayal of female ambition is complex. It shows both the destructive power of such single-mindedness and the ways in which society pushes women into these roles. Interestingly, the men in the film, though significant to the plot, are largely passive figures. They are either complicit in or blind to the manipulation happening around them. Their roles are to admire or critique the women from the sidelines. This reinforces the idea that women are performing for a male gaze. Their struggles are fundamentally with each other. The men are arbiters of success, but not truly engaged in the deep emotional and personal conflicts at play. All About Eve leaves us questioning the nature of success. It examines the cost of ambition. It also explores the cruel ways in which society marginalizes women once they are deemed past their prime. It's a sharp critique of a world. In this world, personal relationships are often sacrificed on the altar of career advancement. Those at the top are always at risk of being dethroned by the next ingenue. Churchill, Britain's Secret Apartheid. See for 8:20 p.m. This documentary re-examines a towering figure of British history. It peels back layers of legend to reveal uncomfortable truths about leadership. The documentary also exposes the costs borne by others in pursuit of empire. Through a fresh lens, the viewer is invited to explore the patriotic stories taught in schools. These stories clash with the realities faced by colonized populations. The program explores the complex legacy of a man revered for his wartime leadership. His policies and attitudes towards non-European subjects provoke deep reflection. The production highlights moments. These are times when decisions made in the halls of Westminster spread to distant parts of the globe. They created divides that resonate today. This documentary does not celebrate military triumphs. Instead, it presents a sobering narrative. It questions whose victories were truly celebrated and examines the cost. It's a reminder that leadership, even in times of crisis, is often marred by prejudice. History remembers victors more kindly than the vanquished. This examination challenges the viewer to consider how political power is exercised. It also examines how it is maintained, often to the detriment of marginalized communities. It prompts us to ask, can a leader be both a savior and an oppressor? The program looks critically at Churchill's lesser-known policies. This encourages a more nuanced view of his impact. His influence extends not just on Britain but on the world stage. Through poignant interviews and archival footage, the audience is led to question the narratives that have long been accepted. We live in an age where historical heroes are being re-evaluated. This documentary highlights the importance of not allowing mythology to obscure injustice. For viewers expecting another wartime biopic, Churchill, Britain's Secret Apartheid offers instead a thought-provoking exploration of power and complicity. It also examines the legacy of historical figures whose actions still reverberate in the present.
Sunday, the 20th of October, 2024. The Thomas Crown Affair, 1968, Sky Arts 8 p.m. A classic in heist cinema, The Thomas Crown Affair presents a battle of wits. Beneath the sleek visuals and sharp dialogue, there is a deeper commentary on autonomy and desire. The story revolves around the life of a man who, by all external measures, has everything: wealth, power, and status. Yet, the film explores the existential emptiness. This emptiness lurks in the heart of someone who has no boundaries left to push. They can only challenge the ones they create for themselves. The film subtly critiques the structures that have allowed Thomas Crown to rise to such heights. He orchestrates his meticulously planned crime. It's not just a heist, it's a performance of freedom in a world where wealth insulates him from consequence. He pursues something meaningful in a life of luxury. Breaking the rules becomes the only thing that makes him feel alive. The romantic tension between Crown and investigator Vicky Anderson is more than a cat-and-mouse game. It's an exploration of two people who understand the rules of society intimately. Both seek to challenge these rules in their own ways. Crown uses crime to escape boredom. Anderson navigates a male-dominated field. She uses intellect and charm as her own tools of rebellion. This film invites viewers to reflect on the nature of identity. In this world, societal roles are both a privilege and a prison. The characters manipulate each other and the systems around them. The viewer wonders if true freedom is possible. Is it possible when one's existence is shaped by wealth and status? In the end, the Thomas Crown Affair focuses on the heist. It's also about what happens when someone has too much. They still crave something beyond the material. Victorian Scandals Talking Pictures 9 p.m. This series delves into the hidden skeletons of a period often romanticized for its prim morality and grandeur. The image of noble industrialists and pristine family life is misleading. Victorian Scandals peeks behind the velvet curtains. It exposes the hypocrisies and transgressions that were rife among the upper echelons of society. The stories brought to light reveal much. They highlight how individuals in power navigate societal rules. They often bend these rules to fit their needs while maintaining appearances of respectability. The program reveals the true nature of scandalous affairs, financial swindles, and social betrayals. These moments were not merely titillating tales of the time. They were indicative of broader societal structures. The Victorian elite were experts in crafting dual lives, public virtues and private vices. This duality created a moral tension that mirrored the inequality beneath society's surface. Those in the lower classes suffered under rigid moral expectations. They could only watch as the powerful seemed to work under a different set of rules. The scandals serve as allegories for the broader injustices of the time. The disparity between the rich and poor is reflected not just in wealth. It is also seen in who has the luxury of avoiding consequences. Each episode forces the audience to think about how power becomes concentrated in the hands of a few. This concentration often leads to moral flexibility for the privileged. The storytelling here is not just about the shock value of personal indiscretions. It is about illuminating a society straining under the weight of its contradictions. The Victorian era is portrayed not just as an age of repression. It is seen as one of secret rebellion. Individuals took risks that could destroy them. They often realized the game was rigged in favor of the wealthy. This fascinating exploration reclaims these scandals from the tabloids of the past. It positions them as critical commentaries on a world that was far from just. Amulet, 2020, film 4:11:45 p.m. Amulet, directed by Romola Garari, is a dark and haunting tale. It weaves together elements of trauma, guilt, and the sinister nature of unresolved pasts. At its center is Tomoz, an ex-soldier. He struggles to come to terms with his past. He takes refuge in a dilapidated house. This house is occupied by a young woman, Magda, and her ailing mother. The house itself feels alive, trapping the characters in its decaying grip as strange and horrifying events unfold. The film confronts the lingering impact of violence. It shows how it contaminates the lives of those who perpetrate it. It also affects those who suffer from it. Tomoz's war experiences haunt him like an unshakable shadow. As the film progresses, it becomes clear that this isn't simply a story about supernatural forces. It is also about the monsters that live within individuals. The house functions as a metaphor for entrapment. This is not just in a physical sense. It is also a psychological prison where past wrongs are confronted. The story centers on the uneasy relationship between men and women. It explores how men can be both protectors and destroyers. Tomoz's initial desire to help Magda seems noble, but as the plot thickens, his motivations become suspect. The film subtly critiques how men can control women's lives. Even with good intentions, they exert dominance. Magda's isolation creates a sense of entrapment. Her role as a caretaker for her grotesque mother intensifies this feeling. This is a condition women often face under the guise of duty or love. As the film moves towards its unsettling climax, Amulet interrogates notions of redemption and justice. It asks whether true atonement is possible, particularly for those who have caused great harm. The horror elements of the film are symbolic, forcing characters and the audience to confront the inescapability of guilt. What begins as a quiet psychological drama morphs into a grotesque exploration of retribution, with shocking visuals and disturbing revelations. Amulet forces us to grapple with the consequences of past actions. We confront the cycles of violence that continue through generations. It is a dark, introspective film. It challenges our perceptions of innocence and evil. This makes it an uncomfortable but thought-provoking viewing experience. The film confronts the lingering impact of violence. It shows how it contaminates the lives of those who perpetrate it. It also affects those who suffer from it. Tomoz's war experiences haunt him like an unshakable shadow. As the film progresses, it becomes clear that this isn't simply a story about supernatural forces. It is also about the monsters that live within individuals. The house functions as a metaphor for entrapment. This is not just in a physical sense. It is also a psychological prison where past wrongs are confronted. The story centers on the uneasy relationship between men and women. It explores how men can be both protectors and destroyers. Tomoz's initial desire to help Magda seems noble, but as the plot thickens, his motivations become suspect. The film subtly critiques how men can control women's lives. Even with good intentions, they exert dominance. Magda's isolation creates a sense of entrapment. Her role as a caretaker for her grotesque mother intensifies this feeling. This is a condition women often face under the guise of duty or love. As the film moves towards its unsettling climax, Amulet interrogates notions of redemption and justice. It asks whether true atonement is possible, particularly for those who have caused great harm. The horror elements of the film are symbolic, forcing characters and the audience to confront the inescapability of guilt. What begins as a quiet psychological drama morphs into a grotesque exploration of retribution, with shocking visuals and disturbing revelations. Amulet forces us to grapple with the consequences of past actions. We confront the cycles of violence that continue through generations. It is a dark, introspective film. It challenges our perceptions of innocence and evil. This makes it an uncomfortable but thought-provoking viewing experience.
Monday the 21st of October, 2024. Broadmoor, 1 of 4, Channel 5, 10 p.m. Broadmoor takes viewers inside the walls of one of the most notorious psychiatric institutions. It offers not just a window into its history. It provides insight into the human stories of those who have passed through its gates. This series challenges perceptions. It shifts focus from lurid tabloid tales to the lived experiences of individuals who have been isolated from society. The portrayal of Broadmoor patients moves beyond sensationalism, instead presenting them as people grappling with complex realities. Rather than casting them as outcasts, the program seeks to humanize those who have often been reduced to mere headlines. This approach allows the viewer to confront their own assumptions about what happens behind closed doors. More importantly, it encourages reflection on why such institutions exist in the first place. As the series unfolds, it explores the tensions between care and control. It asks difficult questions about how society treats those who exist on its fringes. The boundary between illness and criminality becomes unclear. This prompts reflections on how power is exercised over vulnerable populations. Broadmoor's sterile and secure environment contrasts with the emotional lives of its inhabitants. This contrast offers a powerful metaphor for how society seeks to contain what it does not understand. The documentary doesn't shy away from difficult questions, especially about how systems intended for protection can sometimes cause harm. Through interviews and archival material, Broadmoor provides a nuanced look at institutional structures. These structures decide who receives care and who is left behind. This series challenges its audience. It prompts viewers to reconsider what it means to seek justice and safety. Society is often more concerned with punishment than with understanding. In the Earth, 2021, film for 1:15 a.m. Ben Wheatley's In the Earth is a psychedelic horror. It delves into humanity's relationship with nature. The focus is on a world recovering from a pandemic. The film follows scientist Martin and guide Alma as they venture deep into a forest to reach a research facility. Their journey quickly spirals into chaos. They encounter a man named Zach, who believes in ancient, supernatural forces residing in the forest. The film is an exploration of isolation, fear, and the fragile boundary between civilization and wilderness. The forest setting is critical, serving not just as a backdrop but as an active, living entity. It challenges the character's perceptions of reality. It suggests that humanity's belief in its ability to dominate the natural world is flawed. The film's core tension lies between the scientific and the mystical. Martin represents a rationalist view of nature. In contrast, Zach embodies an intuitive and primal understanding of the forest as a sentient being. The film critiques humanity's arrogance in believing it can fully understand or control the natural world. The narrative's descent into hallucinatory terror shows a growing disconnection. This gap is between the modern world and the ancient, unknowable forces of nature. Martin's initial confidence in science and technology fades. The forest becomes more menacing. His beliefs in reason and order are undermined. Wheatley seems to suggest that modern society relies heavily on science. This reliance is important. However, it ignores other truths about the world. These truths may not be easily quantifiable but are no less real. The character of Zach is a reflection of what happens when individuals become untethered from social norms. His isolation in the forest has warped his mind, and his belief in the forest's supernatural power becomes increasingly disturbing. His role in the film serves as a cautionary tale. It warns of the dangers of abandoning societal structures without understanding the full consequences. However, the film doesn't portray Zach as entirely mad. There's an unsettling ambiguity about whether he is actually tapping into something real and ancient. In the Earth is both a horror film and a meditation on humanity's uneasy relationship with the planet. The pandemic setting adds to its relevancy, highlighting how fragile human systems are in the face of nature's raw power. The film makes us question our place in the world. It challenges our understanding of forces far older and more powerful than we can comprehend.
Tuesday, the 22nd of October, 2024. Fremont, 2023, film 4:10:55 p.m. Fremont, directed by Babak Jaloli, is a quiet, introspective film. It follows Donya, an Afghan immigrant. She works at a fortune cookie factory in the titular Californian city. The film subtly explores displacement and identity. It also delves into the search for meaning in a world that feels increasingly alien. Donya's life is marked by a sense of liminality. She is caught between the past she left behind and the present that doesn't quite feel like home. The film highlights the everyday struggles of a character. She is trying to rebuild her life after fleeing conflict. It offers a nuanced portrayal of the immigrant experience. The film avoids resorting to clichés or heavy-handed messaging. Donya's work in the fortune cookie factory, where she writes messages that will be read by countless strangers, becomes a metaphor for her own quest for purpose. Her messages, like her life, are often ambiguous and open to interpretation, reflecting the uncertainties she faces. Fremont highlights the loneliness and alienation that can come with being an outsider in a new country. Donya's interactions with others are often stilted or awkward, underscoring her sense of disconnection from the world around her. The film doesn't dramatize her experience but presents it with a quiet dignity, allowing viewers to empathize with her situation. The cultural and linguistic barriers she faces add to her isolation, but there's also a subtle resilience in her character, as she continues to push forward despite her hardships. The film also subtly critiques the broader systems that create these conditions of displacement. Donya's journey is shaped by forces beyond her control: war, migration, and bureaucratic systems that dehumanize those seeking refuge. The fortune cookie factory, with its repetitive tasks and impersonal atmosphere, represents the capitalist machinery. This machinery often traps immigrants in low-paying and unfulfilling jobs. There is a contrast between the small, personal nature of Donya's fortunes. This contrasts with the impersonal mass production of the cookies. It speaks to the dissonance of her life in America. Fremont is a film about finding connection and meaning in a world that often feels indifferent. It's a gentle but powerful meditation on the human condition. It shows that even in the most alienating environments, there's hope for understanding and belonging. This hope might be small or fleeting.
Wednesday, the 23rd of October, 2024. Logan, 2017, C4205 AM. Logan, directed by James Mangold, is a gritty and unflinching departure from the typical superhero fare. It offers a much darker and more introspective take on the genre. Set in a near future where mutants are nearly extinct, the film explores the life of an aging Wolverine, Logan. He grapples with his waning powers. He also deals with the weight of his past and the care of a deteriorating Professor X. The film is a stark portrayal of mortality, trauma, and the consequences of living a life defined by violence. Logan is a deeply flawed hero, far removed from the invincible figure of earlier films. His body is failing him, and he's haunted by the choices he's made and the lives he's taken. The film explores the toll that a life of violence takes on the human soul. It presents Logan as a man broken by his past. He is struggling to find redemption. There's a sense of inevitability to his decline, reflecting how even the strongest among us are not immune to the passage of time and the consequences of our actions. The relationship between Logan and Professor X is one of the most touching aspects of the film. Once a powerful leader, Professor X is now fragile and vulnerable, dependent on Logan for care. The reversal of roles is poignant. It highlights the vulnerability of aging. It also underscores the responsibility that comes with caring for those who once cared for us. Their dynamic reflects broader societal themes. It shows how we treat the elderly and infirm. This is especially true for those who have lost their autonomy. Laura is introduced as a young mutant. She has powers akin to Logan's. Her presence brings new hope to the film's otherwise bleak world. She represents the next generation, carrying the potential for renewal and change. However, her existence also raises questions about how the cycle of violence is perpetuated. Laura has been engineered to be a weapon, just as Logan was. This suggests that society's tendency to use people as tools for destruction remains unbroken. Her journey mirrors Logan's. She might have the potential for a different outcome. This is possible if she can escape the fate that defined her predecessors. Logan offers a powerful critique of the superhero genre. It strips away the glamour and spectacle. This reveals the harsh realities of a life defined by conflict. It challenges the myth of the hero. It shows that even the strongest can be brought low. This happens not by an external enemy but by the inescapable forces of time and regret. It's a fitting farewell to one of cinema's most iconic characters. It offers a final reflection. This reflection is a sobering look at the price of heroism. Gaia, 2021, film for 2:05 a.m. Gaia, directed by Jocko Buware, is a visually striking and deeply unsettling eco-horror film. It delves into humanity's relationship with the natural world. This exploration feels both mystical and terrifying. The story is set in a dense, primordial forest. The film follows Gabby, a park ranger. She encounters a father and son who live off the grid. As Gabby ventures deeper into the forest, she makes a discovery. She realizes that the natural world is not as benign as she once thought. Ancient, sentient forces manipulate those who inhabit it. The film operates on multiple levels. Its most prominent message revolves around how human beings often conflict with nature. The forest is not simply a backdrop, it is an all-encompassing force that challenges Gabby's understanding of the world. The lush, almost overpowering visuals of the forest reinforce a sense of awe. They also invoke fear. Nature becomes something to be respected and feared, rather than exploited or tamed. The film suggests that the earth itself can react against humanity. This is similar to the forest in Gaia. Earth reacts when it has been abused for too long. The father and son, Barend and Stefan, embody a radical rejection of modern civilization. Barend's reverence for the forest verges on the fanatical, as he worships the fungal entities that control the environment. This worship is a form of submission, representing a return to primal beliefs that predate organized religion or modern science. The film critiques humanity's hubris in thinking it can dominate nature. It offers a vision of what happens when people go too far in either direction. This happens when people try to control the natural world. Alternatively, it occurs when they fully submit to it, losing their humanity in the process. There's an exploration of the human body's fragility in Gaia. The characters begin to transform under the influence of the fungal spores. This bodily horror evokes a sense of decay and erosion. It serves as a reminder that humans, despite their technological advancements, are still organic beings. They are subject to the whims of the natural world. The mutations that Barend and Stefan undergo suggest that humanity's attempts to live in harmony with nature can backfire. Extreme subjugation to nature's forces can cause this backfire. The film leaves viewers with an eerie sense of ambiguity. Is nature reclaiming its dominance, or is humanity simply reaping what it has sown? Gaia forces us to question our relationship with the environment, particularly in an age where ecological disasters loom large. It warns of dire consequences. These consequences may occur if humans continue to exploit and disrespect the forces that sustain them.
Thursday, the 24th of October, 2024. The Life and Death of Christopher Lee. Sky Arts, 9 p.m. The documentary celebrates the life of Christopher Lee. It highlights both his versatility and his unmistakable on-screen presence. Beyond his numerous roles in the horror genre, this film reveals more. It offers a deeper reflection on the roles we play, both in our personal and public lives. Lee's career was marked by his ability to inhabit darkness. He often portrayed villains. Yet, his off-screen persona defied the typical Hollywood image. This exploration of Lee's career also examines the ways in which we assign roles based on appearance and expectation. Lee was often typecast due to his tall stature and commanding voice. Yet, he embraced these roles. He used them to challenge the viewer's perception of what a villain truly is. His characters were often complex, inviting sympathy as much as fear. The documentary allows viewers to see beyond the surface of his famous roles. It provides insight into how Lee viewed his craft. He saw it as a way to explore the darker aspects of humanity. The film celebrates artistic freedom. Lee symbolizes someone who found ways to challenge the norms of his industry. Despite being pigeonholed early on, he managed to break free. His life has many twists and turns. It serves as a reminder that identity is never as simple as the roles we are assigned. Lee's death marked the end of an era for cinema. But this documentary ensures his legacy continues. He is remembered not just as an actor, but as a man who lived life on his own terms. For viewers, this is more than just a look at a single career. It is a meditation on how we define ourselves in a world that is quick to label. You Are Not My Mother, 2021, film 4:1:45 a.m. You Are Not My Mother, directed by Kate Dolan, is an unsettling Irish psychological horror film. It explores the impact of familial trauma. It also examines cultural heritage. The story follows Char, a young woman. Her mother, Angela, mysteriously disappears and then returns. Still, something about her has changed. The film builds its tension through this central mystery. It draws on Irish folklore to deepen its narrative of identity and loss. It also evokes the eerie forces that lurk beneath the surface of ordinary life. At its heart, the film is about the alienation Char feels from her mother. It uses this estrangement to explore the broader disconnection many people feel from their own families and roots. Angela's sudden transformation signifies the terrifying unpredictability of those closest to us, especially when they carry their own unresolved histories. Char's confusion and fear show a struggle familiar to many people. This happens when their caregivers or loved ones turn into strangers through mental illness, addiction, or simply growing apart. The film is heavily influenced by Irish folklore, particularly the concept of changelings, supernatural beings thought to replace real people. Angela's transformation is steeped in this folklore. It also serves as a metaphor for how people can become unrecognizable. This occurs when they are consumed by inner demons. The film cleverly uses the changeling myth to examine how trauma can distort identity. It makes those affected feel like they no longer recognize themselves or their loved ones. Char's journey throughout the film is one of coming to terms with her own heritage and identity. Her family's troubled past is revealed in fragments. It suggests that generational trauma is at play. The trauma is passed down in ways that are often invisible but deeply felt. The film examines the weight of family history. It also explores the difficulty of breaking free from cycles of pain. This is particularly challenging when cultural taboos around mental health and family conflict prevent open discussion. You Are Not My Mother is a slow-burn horror film. It uses folklore and psychological tension. The film tells a story about identity and family. It also explores the things we inherit from those who came before us. It is a haunting exploration of what happens when the people we rely on become strangers. It asks difficult questions about how much of ourselves is shaped by forces beyond our control. The film's horror does not only lie in the supernatural elements. It also manifests in the real fear of losing those we love. Additionally, there is the fear of losing ourselves in the process.
And finally, Friday the 25th of October, 2024. Electric Lady Studios, a Jimi Hendrix Vision. Sky Arts 9:15 p.m. Electric Lady Studios, a Jimi Hendrix Vision takes us into the mind of Jimi Hendrix. He is one of the most iconic musicians of all time. Instead of focusing solely on Hendrix's music, this documentary explores the creative space he built. It highlights a studio that became a haven for experimentation. The film celebrates the spirit of Electric Lady Studios. It shows how artists create environments that mirror their inner worlds. In these settings, the lines between reality and imagination become blurred. Hendrix's vision for the studio was one of liberation. It was a place where musicians could break free from the constraints of commercialism. Here, they could truly explore their sound. This documentary presents Electric Lady as a metaphor for artistic freedom. It is a physical manifestation of Hendrix's desire to push beyond the conventional. He wanted to reach something transcendent. The space allowed for collaboration and experimentation, influencing not just Hendrix but countless others who passed through its doors. The film takes viewers on a journey through time. It shows how Electric Lady Studios became synonymous with unrestrained creativity. The film reflects on the legacy of a place. This place was born out of one artist's dream. It then went on to shape the music of generations. The documentary encourages reflection on creating spaces for true expression. It contrasts this with a world often driven by profit and expectation. Hendrix's story, as told through the studio, is one of defiance and determination. It is a reminder that creativity thrives when nurtured by an environment that values innovation over conformity. The documentary pays tribute to Hendrix. It also honors those who push boundaries and redefine the art of sound in spaces like Electric Lady. Zola, 2020, C4 1:00 a.m. Zola, directed by Janica Bravo, is a wild, chaotic film. It's darkly comedic and based on the viral Twitter thread that captivated the internet in 2015. The story follows Zola, a waitress and part-time stripper. She embarks on a road trip to Florida with a new acquaintance named Stephanie. What starts as a trip to make some quick money through dancing quickly spirals out of control. Zola becomes ensnared in a dangerous world of sex work. She faces deceit and violence. The film is both a modern odyssey and a sharp critique of contemporary culture's obsession with spectacle and performance. At its core, Zola is about exploitation. Zola's journey into Florida's underworld reveals how women are often commodified. This is especially true for women of color. They are used by those seeking to benefit from their labor and bodies. Throughout the film, Zola is constantly navigating a world. It seeks to control and profit from her through sex work or social media fame. The film highlights the often invisible forces that exploit marginalized women. It presents these dynamics with both humor and a deep sense of unease. The film's portrayal of social media culture is central to its storytelling. Zola's narrative has moments of self-awareness. She reflects on the absurdity of the situation. The original Twitter thread serves as the backbone of the film. It contains a mixture of humor, shock, and raw honesty. It reminds viewers of how we consume stories online. This format critiques how modern society consumes and sensationalizes personal trauma, turning it into entertainment without fully understanding its impact. Stephanie, Zola's white counterpart, embodies the concept of appropriation. She shows how white women often co-opt the experiences and cultural expressions of black women for their own benefit. Throughout the film, Stephanie uses a stereotypical black vernacular, shifting her persona depending on what benefits her in the moment. The film highlights how this behavior is not just annoying. It is deeply harmful. It reinforces systems that exploit black women. It also allows others to profit from their culture and experiences. Zola is a fast-paced, unsettling ride. It feels like a commentary on the current state of American life. The line between entertainment and exploitation is blurred. It challenges viewers to question how they consume stories, especially those involving the lives of marginalized individuals. The film blends comedy, horror, and social commentary. It captures the chaotic energy of the internet age. In this age, the absurd and the horrifying often exist side by side.